Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night session of the Sports Crib. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure who's going to drop by the Sports Crib tonight, but Bill did happen to go through the combine, and he's going to talk about the combine with us after he gets off of his other podcast. So we'll try to keep things going. Hopefully Mr. Scott will drop by. It's usually kind of hard to get him after a Timberwolves loss, but we'll see whether or not he comes by. And of course, our thoughts and prayers are still with Demetrius and his family as they go through their moments of sympathy and illness. Let's get the other stuff out of the way here. Of course, you can find me on Facebook under J.E. King 3. You'll see many pages there, but the two that we're talking about mostly are the Sports Crib, as well as our boxing pages. But since I'm here alone, I will talk a little boxing because the boxing scene has announced that we will be getting a fight between Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. This bout is highly touted between these two young gentlemen, but once again, we have a catchweight. And I like my divisions firmly adhered to if you're going to be a champion. If you're a lightweight champion, then it says that the lightweight division is this many pounds to this many pounds. If you're going to be a welterweight, 147, there are specific weight classes for a reason. Right now, the type of money that these young gentlemen are getting paid to fight each other is enormous by old heads' point of view, or by guys that have fought within the last decade. Now, once again, it's what the market will bear. So if you're worth more as an undefeated fighter, and we have talked about this many, many times, you try to preserve that, regardless of who that other loss may be to. I mean, it was no shame for Tommy Hearns to lose to Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, as a matter of pride, maybe, but they fought evenly matched. They fought at a weight class, and the better man won. But that didn't stop Tommy Hearns or Sugar Ray Leonard from getting a fight with Marvin Hagler. It wasn't the idea to be undefeated. The idea was to be the best. Now, if you were undefeated and the best, so be it. But Muhammad Ali did not stop being the GOAT because he lost to Joe Frazier. It was not the O that mattered. It was the man. Okay. Let's get off of that diatribe there and talk about more of what we usually talk about on this show. So I'll start with the Ja Morant situation, since we talk a little NBA here. Now, once again, going back to history and showing my age, I have to go back to World Be Free and some of the other bad boys of the era that we can say have certainly had their share of run-ins with their teammates, run-ins with other players. But then once again, I go back to the old adage of you're supposed to learn from your mistakes. Now, you cannot parent a grown man, especially a rich grown man. Now, for some people, it's easy to be like the Jeffersons and move on up. But for some others, moving up also may be confused with bring up. We kind of see in the case of Ja Morant, I want to go back to was it Maurice Claret that in order for him to prove himself to these bunch of teenagers in the park, he felt that he had to play with them to show them how big or how manly he was. And we see this in Ja Morant. We see a young man that is confronted by a teenager whom may have been probably, if not close in stature, maybe even bigger. I'm not sure. I don't have pictures of the young man. I did not go that deep into the incident to go into the court records or to see who this young man was. Because as a teenager, usually these types of things, names and whatnot, are redacted. But it's not only am I so-and-so and I have this much so-and-so, but my gun is bigger than yours too. Or you ain't even got one of these. In either way, it was a case to me of just showing off. But look what it has gotten you. Much like that drug dealer in the hood that has no viable income, but's driving that expensive car, has those gold chains and whatnot. Sooner or later, there's going to be a certain amount of attention brought. And it's usually not the person that has nothing to lose that pays the price. In the case of Ja, here's a 17-year-old that, excuse me, will probably never have the talent to make an NBA team. Will probably never have that 15 minutes of fame without a star NBA basketball player acting a fool. And once again, you say, well, like, shouldn't old heads prevail? Well, Stephen Adams did what he could by calling a meeting and telling them. And, in any locker room, you know who's doing what. I mean, men are not always susceptible to hearing wisdom from your elders, let alone your peers. But here's my problem. Since the Washington Bullets, you've had this problem about guns. So I don't understand why, after all of this time, we're talking about the same things that we were talking about, as I said, before there was a world meta peace. I see Mr. Scott is here. And, oh, my goodness. How are you doing this evening, Mr. Scott?
Well, I'm doing very good. Very good. Good to see you, JK3. Hope things are going well with you.
Well, I'm hoping that we can get some very good interviews from Minneapolis when we come back on the air. I've been trying to contact some people over in St. Paul, and as I said, I want to work a lot more with some of the people that are involved. He says over in North High School that you were talking about earlier, and some of the positive things that are coming are starting to come out of Minneapolis. Like I said, actually due to the sports world. Even not just and we're not talking about the Timberwolves. We're not talking about the Twins, but we're talking about uh, one of the oldest forms of organizations, usually within the neighborhood, and that to me means boxing is coming back to Minneapolis.
Yeah, they've had big events at the Armory. The Armory is a great place because we used to have our high school championships there, but also the Lakers played there.
The
That was
Minneapolis,
Lakers. That was
Minneapolis Lakers.
the
See,
Minneapolis Lakers. Well, right. The real Lakers. The Lakers in Minneapolis, like the real Lakers. I'm not talking about, Jabron and all this. The other day, did you see him? He's walking around with a boot on. I guess he's just trying to make people just feel sympathy for him. But yeah, so yeah, Minneapolis, the Armory, the boxing, but still, there's a side of North Minneapolis that really see when they show movies and they do films, they're going to just show you certain things. But me, I grew up here. And I used to go over to the north side when we went from Washburn, where we were state champions, Washburn High School. And we would go to all the 11 schools and play. We'd go over to North High School. I got to know all the North guys, hanging out with them. But what's happened over there, and my brother was a teacher, my brother Walter, and he coached baseball at Minneapolis Central until it closed. Then he went to North High School and coached. Went to North High School and coached. But what they've done is on the north side, they used to have a great grade school called Hay Grade School. And then they had Lincoln Junior High School. Kids could walk to both of those places. Everybody knew each other. My older brother, or your older brother, went to the junior high and moved on ahead of you. But they closed those two schools. They closed those two schools 20 years ago. So North only they might have 200 students, maybe, but the school had 1,400 students when my brother taught there.
yeah, well, I mean, that's a lot of high schools, even
Yeah.
even in a small
Let me
town
tell
like.
you, Gary, Indiana, when I was going to school, had 7 high schools. You know how many they got now? One.
See,
One public high school. That's all they have.
I have
Everybody's fun.
I have cousins that grew up in uh, Gary, Indiana, as well as Terre Haute. So I mean, that kind of speaks to the reason why I talk about my background sometimes when you talk about those neighborhoods. But I mean, even another part of my family grew up in North Philly. So I mean, it wasn't like we had silver spoons, but we weren't poor, but we were neighborhood rich, as they called it.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a place to stay. You had lights on in your house. You had,
Yeah.
my grandfather he was a deacon at the church, barber on the weekend and worked his job all week long, had 2, 3 jobs.
Yeah.
But he had a little guitar that it didn't have the strings in it. It didn't have and he could play it and make music out of it. And I could never figure out what the heck, how he could do it. He could just pick it up and play it, and they
Well,
would sing little gospel songs or whatever. And so
Grandpa,
I asked him. I said, one day, why did all the blues players play acoustic guitars? They didn't play electric guitars.
no
He said we didn't have no electric. We didn't have no running water. You know, we had a well. That's how we went to get
a well and an outhouse.
an outhouse.
But
it made me, just kind of put perspective on me that, how these things evolved and how they come up and what people had to go through, to get to however things are today.
I remember Grandpa with the bib overalls, the handkerchief in the little side pocket, and his harmonica. Okay, he couldn't read, but he could play the hell out that harmonica.
Yeah, I watched that.
Couldn't read a note, but he sit there, him and his boys sit there and drink that clear alcohol. you know
moonshine.
Yeah. You know the deal. Come on now. So they go coon hunting. They got their dogs, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, and I remember the elementary school around the corner. I remember the junior high school around the other corner. Then you had the little Catholic school, and maybe down the street a little further, you had another little elementary school, and that's where our little Pop Warner teams came from. The different little elementary schools, and you started your neighborhood rivalries before you got to junior high school.
Yeah.
But after school, you went and played. Yeah. One of the gentlemen that I'm trying to get in touch with, you might know him, or you might have come in contact with him. His name is Clarence White.
Clarence White?
Yes. He's I have a little background on him here.
Okay.
Where is it? Have to go back. But he's the gentleman that I was mentioning from the St. Paul area.
Okay.
And I was trying to see, to talk about some of your the old rivalries, like you talk about, the school that you went to.
But there was rivalries. See, I had some pictures. My wife's father is 100 years old, veteran.
Yeah, that's what I remember you were talking about that.
Still alive, and they used to take pictures for the black newspaper, the Spokesman, and actually my father-in-law built the building because he was a contractor. And so because of all of that, Wayne Glanton, he built the so people don't realize what's really going on up here. I mean, they see it from one perspective, but like I say, closing the schools over at North, they closed Minneapolis Central, which was a great school on the south. And so the neighborhoods just dissipate.
Yeah. Mr. White, I'll read you.
Are you sure it's Clarence White? Is this a guy that wrote a book on baseball?
Yes.
Okay. His name is Frank White. Okay. Frank White.
He used to be the associate director of the East Side Foundation Library.
No, Frank, the guy I'm thinking about that wrote the book on baseball was a director of recreation at a little city called Richfield.
Okay, let me see.
Clarence White. I'm not.
Okay,
Is he from St. Paul?
Says he was from St. Paul. He says, he's is the associate director of the East Side Freedom Library, an instructor at the Minneapolis College. He's a writer and a poet with almost a decade and a half of library and book selling experience. He's worked with a wide range of organizations, including the National Farmers Union. And as a bookseller, he's with the Hungry Mind Bookstore. Library clerk at the Ramsey County Library.
Boy, I just don't. I don't know a Clarence White.
Let's see. He's has in an anthology blues version of the African American writing from Minnesota. Teaches ice skating with brown body and is intrigued by baseball.
Ice skating, damn, that's something I could never do. Why? Ice skating.
He's intrigued by baseball stories and how they touch vivid points of American history. He lives in St. Paul.
Clarence White.
Yes, sir.
He's a black man?
Yes, sir. I'll share his profile with you. Check your email after this.
Yeah, do that. Do that. I'd like to really see.
His profile is in front of a microphone. He says that, like I said, he's intrigued by baseball stories, so he's probably not the one that has written them. But I'll send it over to you because I was also trying to reach any of those when you had talked last week about having I believe it was the commander on Our Black Voices or Our Black News, and he was talking about how to react to a police stop.
Yeah.
I'd like to have more stories like that, and of the police that are connected with.
And that person that I was referring to, Commander Adams, his son is the one in the documentary that was the coach at North High School, and he's a policeman too.
Right.
And I think Commander Adams volunteers during the games. He comes and does stuff, for the team too.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
His son is the head coach, I believe, and like you said, he comes and volunteers, and I believe there's another Adams. I don't know whether he's related by blood or not, but he coaches the defense.
I'm trying to think. Is it? It might be his brother. I can't remember if Commander Charles had because there's a whole backstory about these police up here. Because they tried to fire all the black police maybe 25, 30 years ago and tried to say they were doing stupid stuff, on the job. And so all those 5 officers, including Officer Arredondo, who was the recent chief that just left, they had to sue to keep their jobs. And so the chief at that time said, okay, you guys are selling drugs and doing stuff during the duty. And they did a smart thing. They said, okay, let's go to court. Tell that under oath to a judge and tell that judge what you say we were doing and how you know what kind of evidence you have. And then they settled the case. And they got their jobs back.
Well, there are positive stories that come out of the neighborhood. But the thing of it is that there's no one around that wants to tell those stories.
Yeah.
The people that you see in front of the cameras are usually the ones that are promoting very negative things. Like I said, if it had not been for the Showtime special with the fights, I would have never heard about boys from the North. But
Yeah.
it was very easy for me to find out about George Floyd. It was very easy for me to find out about the tensions within the neighborhood, and the other stories are the ones I would really like to hear.
Yeah.
But people don't have time to listen, or they don't have time to. Well, anyway, this is
It doesn't grab their attention.
Yeah.
I mean, they know the things that are going to grab, and it's usually the negative, and that's why my dad did his books. That's why there was him when my dad started his books. He also had a little monthly publication, and then there was a Minneapolis Spokesman that still goes on. There was the Observer, and there was the Courier, and those two were owned by women. And they all banded together to say, you're not telling the story in our community. And they made these people advertise in their papers, and it lasted for a good 10 years.
I remember well, and I lived in a few places, but I remember as a young man, if I wanted, we had our regular newspaper, the Youngstown Vindicator. It came every day, and
yeah.
But if you go down to the corner store, you could pick up a Pittsburgh Courier.
Yeah,
which was all about the black community.
Yeah. Oh yeah, one of the legacy papers. You bet.
And there was every community, every black community had its own version of the Courier.
Yes, that's right. And that's what was up here with the Spokesman. That still goes on today.
I don't know if there's still a Jet magazine. I don't even know if there's still an
Ebony. I think that's a good thing. I think some of it, maybe Ebony or something, was online for a while, but I don't.
Ebony was online for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, Ebony magazine even came to Vietnam and did a story on black veterans.
Yeah,
you can go back.
But you're right. Every city had those newspapers that were covering, what we were doing. And
you had black sports. You had the kid, track and field. You had baseball. You had, any sport that a black man was involved in was within that paper. You knew when a record was set. You knew about Jimmy Smith before he went to the Olympics.
Yeah. And here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, it was not really a rivalry. It was more community then. And so they had a community center in St. Paul, Hallie Q. Brown. They had the Phyllis Wheatley Center in Minneapolis. And those community centers also had places where, like, the black musicians came in town. They'd have to stay there. They couldn't stay downtown at the hotel, right. Wherever they were playing. They just couldn't stay there. But they also had the community.
Or they stayed in the house, or they stayed in the home of other musicians.
Yeah, with other people. Yeah, because when they came up here, they played with a lot of they didn't bring the whole band. They just played with some local guys that they knew could hang with them.
Yeah,
they did a lot of that. See, but people don't remember all of these type of things, And in St. Paul, like I was going to say, Hallie Q. Brown had a basketball team. Phyllis Wheatley had a basketball team, and they had football teams, and they had baseball teams. And when they played each other, now this is before the Twins and all of that, every black person in the Twin Cities would be at those games. And my father-in-law and his brother took pictures of that, and we've made that into another book. But that's how the community was. They said those games between Hallie Q. Brown, I was like pro games. I mean, they were sold out. Everybody came to it.
I mean, even back in the day, Will Chamberlain and those guys came to Rucker Park. They knew where Rucker Park was.
Yeah.
And you had great school rivalries. I mean, of course not now, but the University of San Francisco had a reputation as being a basketball schools and having black players and but like you say, like things have changed, but it is good for me to see that we still have policemen that are willing to be involved like we used to have within our neighborhoods. And I think that these policemen do not get enough of the attention that we give other stories.
What, police?
Well, like I said, if it hadn't have been for that Showtime special, and I was surprised at how many people in Minneapolis had never even seen that special, or really promoted it as part of a positive image.
I know that they really, it was so low key. And it was on Showtime now, so it wasn't on, you had to have cable and everything to see it, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, and so, that's always going to knock out some people. But yeah, it was kind of low key because I didn't even know if it was just one show or then I heard it might be three segments.
It was part, it was 3 segments. I sent you I sent everyone the first segment.
Yeah, I did see that. Okay.
And there was supposed to be 2 more, but you can find them now on YouTube. You can go on YouTube and find them, so you don't have to go to cable TV. They're on YouTube.
But again, the North Side is just, I don't know what this attrition came to the city. I mean, even before the Floyd thing. See, I think it goes back to a thing, and people don't like to talk about this. People don't like to talk about it. But I think that the whole police fell apart here in the Twin Cities back in the 70s when there was a police officer, white police officer at a pizza joint. And he goes to this pizza joint and the guy seemed to me like a Barney Fife type of policeman. Just a neighborhood guy who was getting ready to retire. And then some supposed gang members went in and assassinated him, killed him in the pizza shop. And from that time, it just seems like there's been this war as to how did that happen or what. It just seemed like the whole tenor and rancor of the police force just went totally different. Well, you had community people, you talk to them and see them on the street or whatever. It was no big deal. But after that, it was never really solved. And I think that really was the tipping point of starting this stuff.
But Mr. Scott, as I've said before, in the summer of 1967, Detroit was burning down.
67. Oh, yeah. My grandpa was right there, 67, 68. The whole city, all these cities were burning down.
There are neighborhoods in Detroit right now where the buildings were burned down in Detroit in 1967. If there's not a freeway running through that neighborhood, all of those lots and blocks are empty. There's not a neighborhood store. There's not a house within in shouting. There might be a liquor store and a gas station.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
And that was almost 50 years ago.
I trust me. I mean, my grandfather lived in Detroit. I've been there many times and saw the decay in the total deterioration of that city.
Yeah. And you can't blame it on the steel mills. You can't blame it on the auto industry. There are a lot of shortcomings, but we have gotten away from our building blocks, which was our neighborhoods. We have no clearly. We have areas, but we have no neighborhoods anymore. I was looking at even the way that low-income housing is set up today. You still might not, the way low-income housing was set up in my day, which we called the projects, you knew all your neighbors' business because the walls was that thin. you knew everything that was going on in your neighbor's house. And I'm not saying good, bad, indifferent, but that's the way public housing was at that particular time. Now you still might not know your neighborhood, your next door neighbor. You might never see your next door neighbor. So you can't play with so-and-so's kids no more because his daddy is so-and-so or he got two moms, Whereas before, all the kids in the neighborhood went outside and played.
Yeah.
And, so, I mean, when, do you realize, excuse me, do you realize how many generations of political correctness a person has had to go through in order to survive to this day and age?
Yeah.
So, but I got to ask you, what happened to your Timberwolves the other night, even without Mr. Take Your Talents Elsewhere?
Oh, Mr. Town, Louis, he shows up at the game wearing Louis Vuitton jackets and stuff. Yeah, I mean, what? He looks fine. Looked like he could go out there and play if he wanted to. But no, Timberwolves been doing great. Yeah, they got, they lost the other night, and they've been doing it with a lot of bench guys. They've been.
Was it Embid that dropped 39 on the other night?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they can't stop that. I mean, he totally nullified Gobert. Gobert, man, I had 5 or 6 points. He just nullified him. So, I mean, I think he's the best. Actually, I think Embid, to me, as a center, I think he's the best. I mean, Djokovic, you can't take nothing away from him, but I just think Embiid is just, I think they're going to be dangerous.
Now, do you think that other team? Now, last week you told me to stick a fork in them, and they're creeping up. They're number 9 now.
What team you're talking about?
The team you told me to stick a fork in last week. The team where Take My Talents Elsewhere.
Oh, Take My Talent. Oh, Take My Talents. And then he walks around with a boot. I mean, what? He's walking around on the sideline. He's got a walking boot, trying to get sympathy and stuff from people, or maybe think people don't believe he's really hurt or anything. So I want them to get in it because I think they'll make it very interesting. Take My Talents, AD. Beasley now, and then the other guy they got from the Timberwolves. Timberwolves gave all their good bench guys to them. Yeah. And D'Lo. So I want them to make it. I would love to see them get in the playoffs. I want to see Take My Talents. I want to just see him perform. I think he'll make it very interesting for him to get in.
Now, what about that other team in Los Angeles that now has Russell Westbrook?
Boy, I don't know why they wanted him. You know, they were. I don't know what it is with Westbrook. I mean, guy, he seems to have all the talent in the world, but boy, he really gets into these things where he can't shoot. He turns the ball over. He just out of control. I thought they were going to be very tough. Actually, the Clippers, once they got Kawhi back and Paul George playing and everything seemed to be going good, I thought they were going to be good. But now, when they add him to the mix, it just seems to be a little bit more tenuous. And the West is tough. I mean, Phoenix, now they got KD. I mean, all of a sudden now they just look like they could take the whole thing.
Yeah, and Kyrie and Luka's not playing bad. They started off really shaky, but they still, the only thing is, they don't play any defense. So if you can outscore them, I mean,
right.
Because Kyrie's not going to play any defense. He never has, so.
And he might not even play every game. Even something might come up with him too. I don't know.
Do you think that Luka has become Robin to Kyrie's Batman? Do you think that Luka's when you look at how many times that Luka has shot in the fourth quarter, Kyrie has shot almost twice that many shots in the fourth quarter. Now, that's not saying that he's not making them. I mean, last night in the fourth quarter, he, scored, I think 17 points in the fourth quarter. But it does seem that Luka is now disappearing in the fourth quarter. Do you think that he's intimidated by Tyree and that the Mavs are becoming his team? Or do you think that this is something that's going to possibly blow up in the playoffs when we don't have enough balls?
Well, it's hard to say because the chemistry with a guy like Kyrie, it's all over the place. I mean, if I look at that team, Luka's been there. I mean, he's Batman, and then what's his name? Kyrie comes in, he's Robin. I mean, that's the way that should be. I mean, he was there first. He's the guy. This guy just comes in now, an interloper. Yeah, I mean that's the way that should be. And why Kyrie's getting all the shots now? It must be the coaching, or maybe they're saying they want to do that. Or maybe they're trying to see which way they want to go to get towards the playoffs. But to me, Luka he's the Batman.
Yeah, he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But when you look at stats, kind of seems to reverse itself. What do you think about, I kind of started off talking earlier in this show about it. What do you think about this Ja Morant situation? I once again, showing my age, I kind of took this all the way back to when Maurice Claret had to play a pickup game with teenagers. After... is Ja Morant, feeling that he has to show or prove to a 17-year-old how much of a man he is by displaying a handgun? And I'm gonna go back to old pimp player knowledge here. When you started getting the money, you didn't buy a Chevy anymore. You went and bought a Cadillac. Okay, you got you an apartment uptown. You got you some new duds and whatnot. And now instead of dropping your hose off, you just come around to collect the money. you don't have to go out there and do the grunt work no more. You don't have to be the one out there in the street acting the fool. The welfare pimps, like we used to call them. Back in the day. So it would seem to me that when you're a young man and you're making 9 figures a year guaranteed, to be blunt, what do I have to prove to a broke nigga?
Yeah, I mean that's like, okay, here I come. I got $200-300 in my pocket, and I'm gonna roll some dice with niggas that got a quarter. You know, you know what I mean? I mean, Jay Morant and this whole rap. See, people know I detest this shit. They know that I detest the whole rap game because of what it has done to our community and what it's done to these young kids, and it just totally distracted them. And what he doesn't realize is that these rappers would give up rapping and preach to be where he is. Okay, they would give up rapping and go in the pulpit and preach if they could be where he is with endorsements, shoe endorsements, $30 million a year coming up, $30-40 million a year. They would stop rapping and shit. They'd pull their pants up and everything else if they could do what he does. Come on. And so I don't know who's around him, but he's messing up everybody's money. So somebody's going to come in there and say something to him and try to say, look, dude, this little rap game, this ain't happening. You need to move away from that. And I hope he does, because he could really help turn the whole Memphis city around. He really could do that. He could be a positive type of thing for the kids and positive for the city. There's all kinds of good things he could do. But
he wasn't in Memphis doing it. He went all the way to Denver. He decided to go to Colorado. Now they want to know, where did he get the gun? Did he bring the gun with him? And if he brought the gun with him and the team was flying, now that gets another entity involved.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's terrible, for this kind of.
And you talk about, the elders, like trying to take charge. Well, Steve Adams called a meeting and addressed. I mean, he might not have put him up on display like he was, like you did the little kid in the corner with, but yeah. He's telling them, look, guys, when you go out in these cities, you have to control yourself. You have to know where you're going. You have to know who you be with. He's not even in Memphis. He's all the way in Colorado. All he got to do is go home. All he got to do is go there, play basketball. When he come back home, there's a check waiting there for him.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, sad.
NBA guaranteed money, not like the NFL where they give you all this money, but at the end of 4 years they tear up the
Yeah, and then NFL is such BS because this whole salary cap stuff. There ain't no caps. There ain't no cap on the owners. They don't have no cap. This cap, all this stuff is so they can allow you to say, "Oh, you got to a point, but you're too much money now. We can't afford it, so we can kick you out." That's all. To me, that's all that is. Oh, cap stuff is a bunch of foolishness.
Well, let's talk about the cap. Let's talk a little NFL now, and I got to start with your guy up there right now. He's within your division, but the Jets, they flew an entourage out here to L.A., went out to Malibu, met him at his house. I think they're already starting off on the wrong foot. When you start flying, you don't fly the quarterback to your team. You fly your team to the quarterback. I think there's something a little wrong with that. But, we'll talk about that maybe on a later show. But anyway, do you think that the Jets having Aaron Rodgers is enough to get them to a Super Bowl contention in 1 or 2 years? Because that's all we're going to see from Aaron. Aaron is 38 years old. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I thought they already had a quarterback.
Well, according to them, Zach Wilson didn't work out. And the guy that they brought in last year for a few games, he looked good for a while. Mike White. So they're willing to part ways with either or both, of course, to acquire Aaron Rodgers. But even though they have a solid defense, their wide receiver, what's his name? Gardner Wilson, I believe, won Rookie of the Year. So but they have. I'm not sure who their running backs are going to be. I don't know whether that if the young rookie, another young rookie they had. He got hurt last year, but anyway, he's their potential running back. But do you believe that the Jets are Aaron Rodgers away from being a Super Bowl contender? Because the Jets are not. Remember now, the Jets are in the AFC East.
Yeah.
So he's still going to be playing Josh Allen twice a season. Tua, whoever is going to be the quarterback of the Dolphins, you're playing them twice a year. And although Bill Belichick might not have his quarterback, he still plays the Dolphins tough every year. So, I mean, he still plays the Jets twice a year. So, it's not like, if Aaron Rodgers comes, is he going to be better than Josh Wilson? I mean, excuse me, not Josh Wilson, Josh Williams for the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. Is he going to be better? Is he going to be better than, are they going to have a better team than the Miami Dolphins? So
I really don't necessarily believe that he's going to leave.
That he's going to leave Green Bay?
Yeah. I mean, he's not gone yet. I mean, why would Green Bay? Again, they come up with all this cap foolishness. There might be some mumbo jumbo with that, but why wouldn't he just finish it out there? Because he's really only going to play one more year, maybe. He's not going to do it great. He can keep going until he's 50.
Green Bay is on the hook whether he plays the next 2 years or not. Green Bay,
like $50 million. Yeah.
So, so I mean, that's one reason why to get rid of him, because they can get him off that salary cap, like you say. It might not be a cap, but would you want to pay, Aaron Rodgers $101 million in the next 2 years?
Well, it's that seems to be the name of the game. You price yourself out. I mean, why can't he do some kind of restructure? If he really want, he could do that.
Aaron has never done a restructure.
No, he's not. No, I know he's not. He's not.
All of a sudden, at 38, he's going to become a Patrick Mahomes or a Tom Brady. I mean, come on, he proved that the last time. That's why they're on the hook now. I wonder would they have treated him the same way if he had said that he was smoking weed instead of ayahuasca. but
But in this scenario, this happens to everybody. I mean, you get to a point where your salary is 40, 50 million, you're 30, you're closer to 40 than you are to 30. These people will say, well, let's get a quarterback and we'll rebuild for a couple of years and see what we can do. I mean, it just sounds like these guys just get to a point where they just can't. Brady, I don't think he's ever been the highest paid quarterback. As many Super Bowls and everything he's won, I don't think he's ever been near the highest paid.
No, but he's won most Super Bowl trophies, though. And Patrick Mahomes seems to be falling in the same footsteps of being able to make Chiefs very friendly deals. And I mean, he's not even the highest paid quarterback now. And
same kind of thing.
Yeah. So, but let's take this other thing a little further, because I know you don't believe in the Bears and the Lions. So, what do you think the Bears should do with this first round draft pick? Should they keep it and bring in someone else under Justin Fields, kind of like what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love? Should they trade it to someone like, let's say, the Colts, for instance? Because I think the Bears find themselves in a very interesting situation. The Bears, if they would keep Justin Fields, there's a lot of number twos out there. We'll talk about a couple of them a little bit later on. And possibly trade that number one pick to a team that they could get a bunch of first round draft picks from, or even second round draft picks from. But say they would they would give up their first round pick to a team like the Colts, or that have, I believe, the third or the fourth round. And in the fourth, for number 4 in the first round, they could also double down and get some more draft picks, where they would be picking probably around where the Steelers are. The Steelers are picking around number 17, I think. But even if they drop down to number 10 or 12, the draft class this year is not like it was in a lot of years, Mr. Scott. It's not that rich. There's only about 4 quarterbacks. There's a couple defensive linemen. There's a few O-linemen. But it's not, you don't hear a lot of names ringing like we have in past years. So I think that the Bears could draft for their future by trading down twice, getting some picks on the defensive line, getting some help on that woeful wide receiver core that they have. And if they had this guy named David Montgomery, if he could stay healthy, he's a viable asset. Now, that's not ever saying that they're going to beat your Vikings or they're going to beat the Green Bay. But do you think it could ever make them do you think that would be a more viable path to them at least being contenders?
I think
if Aaron Rodgers leaves, now there's at least a chance for number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think their viable chance is to keep that quarterback they got and to try to build around him. I mean, he's mobile, and if he gets more time, and like you say, he's got to have some better receivers. I mean, that's a huge, he needs a good receiving tight end. Montgomery, he seems to always get hurt. Something seems to always happen to him.
Yeah.
But when he plays, he's a good back. So I think they should keep the quarterback and either draft. I don't know what their offensive line is like.
Oh, they need help there too. That's what I'm saying. If you could, line you up some draft picks and get you some help for that offensive line, or get you some help for that defensive line, because it doesn't help how many points you can score if you can't stop the opposition.
Yeah, but I think they should stick with the quarterback and use that pick. They could trade up if they need to do something, but they need to really shore up either the line. Definitely need receivers though. They seem to be lacking there. But my plan would be to work around the quarterback if I was the Bears.
Yeah, that would seem to be the way that I would, if I was going to go after him, that would be just the way I am. Bill's supposed to come and talk to us a little bit later about the combine. He's doing a different show, but what about
James? You said you had been to Detroit before.
Yes.
Did you ever go to Kronk Gym?
I've never been to Kronk, but I have been to Cobo Hall where the fights used to take place.
Oh, okay, yeah, downtown Cobo Hall. Okay,
but I actually, as I said, the way I actually got into boxing once I got out here was because Emmanuel Stewart used to host fights out here at Pechanga Arena.
Oh, really? What was he promoting?
He was, well, it was, Kronk had a deal with the Pechanga casino out here, and they would feature Kronk fighters.
Okay.
And it was at that particular time, Sugar was still under Emmanuel, and that was at this particular time. It was a young Tyson Fury and a young Deontay Wilder, both being trained by Emmanuel Stewart.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This was back in 2000. I moved out here in 2003, so this had to be around 2004, 2005.
Okay.
I had gotten real close to Emmanuel just before he passed, and it was, Emmanuel was a guy that you could call any time of night, and all you had to do was just start the conversation about boxing, and until Emmanuel had to go to sleep, he would talk to you.
Yeah.
Emmanuel had so many stories, and his own.
That's why I hate that I never went to Kronk. And what happened is, on the times we would go to Detroit, I had these two cousins, these two girls, Peaches and Cookie. I never knew what their real name was, but it was Peaches and Cookie. And when I get to Detroit, they're always taking me around the clubs, and they had all these girlfriends and blah, blah, blah. But when I get back to the house, my brother is like, yeah, Granddaddy took me over to Kronk. We was over at the Kronk gym all day. And I'm like, damn, what the hell? And that happened a couple of times. I'm out fooling around with them, and my brother goes to Kronk. So he knew Kronk. He met Emmanuel. He saw McCrory, Gail McCrory. Was that one of the?
Milt McCrory, yes.
Milt McCrory.
Yeah. See, when K9 won his first championship down here, when he beat what's his name's son, Spinks.
Oh.
When he beat Spinks' son for the title out here, that opened up a lot of doors for me because I happened to be down in Indy at that particular time. But it was Emmanuel was a great mentor for me. He stopped me from doing a lot of things that would have probably kept me from doing this podcast at this particular time. But that's another story.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
But now Kenny Norton was San Diego, wasn't he?
Kenny Norton out here. I'm trying to think. Raymond Brewster's cousin still lives out here and trains fighters out here.
Oh.
There are still quite a few guys out here that
Okay.
Not so much in San Diego anymore, but once you get up around LA, you get up around Glendale, you get up around there, and especially when you get up around I hate to say it, but you can look all over TV and see it for yourself. But when you start getting around the barrio, those boys put in a lot of work. Mr. Scott, what do you think about the Cowboys? They put the franchise tag on Tony Pollard, and you don't know how a leg injury like that is going to really have an effect, or what it's going to have effect. But Mike McCarthy says that he's going to be calling the plays because he thinks Dak needs a new voice in his ear. What do you think?
Boy, I don't know what to think about the Cowboys and Zach. I've been a fan of his until this last year. He just really let everybody down. He really, I don't know what they do. And so Pollard, they gave him the money, they gave him the bag, gave him his paper.
They gave him
like Ezekiel's out. Looks like Ezekiel's out then.
Well, but the thing is, we've been saying that about Zeke for the last 2 years, but nobody wants to take up that big, that's another big money bag that you have to take on if you take on Zeke's salary also.
Well, they can release people. They have to release. These things only guaranteed up to a certain point. I think March 17th is some kind of date that some of these contracts will be guaranteed or. So there'll be a lot of people. They're going to make them walk the plank. There'll be a lot of them.
What do you think about the Giants giving Daniel Jones all that money? 4 years, $160 million, $82 million guaranteed.
Well, he got them to the playoffs. I mean, he got them to the playoffs, and I guess if you believe that bigger and better things are to come, well, I think that's what you got to do.
So the Eagles, the Giants, and the Cowboys, what do you think are the chances of the three of them all making the playoffs again next year?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good.
You think so?
Yeah.
The Eagles have 13 guys coming up for free agency. How many of those you think they're going to re-sign?
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. But I think those three teams, I seem like the top teams still.
Are you saying that because they're in the NFC? Because when I look at the NFC, unless things happen to unfurl quite differently, you still have the 49ers, even though they don't have a quarterback, they still have probably the second best defense in the league. They probably have the second or third best tight end in the league. They have Deebo Samuels and Christian McCaffrey. So, when you start talking about the Jets just needing a quarterback to come in, to plug in and play, Brock Purdy won 6 or 7 games with the same lineup.
Yeah, Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah.
So when you start talking about the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Eagles, what about the 49ers? What about the Vikings? You know, what about maybe the Seahawks? I mean, there are teams that are going to be, the Seahawks have a young defense that played pretty well for them, as well as, now you have Geno Smith that's just signed a new contract.
Yeah, I saw that. He got a bag. He got his bag. Yeah.
But, he also got some stipulations. He got a $70 million increase in salary, but the other 30 million is incentives. So, which means that probably they're expecting the Seahawks to get at least back to the playoffs. I would assume, that there's going to be a certain amount of, as a quarterback, touchdowns, receiving yards, so forth and so on. But what did you think about the Seahawks? Giving Geno the money rather than letting him go to free agency.
Well, why not? He's a veteran, and he just blossomed late, and he did a lot of unexpected things there. So why not give him another shot and see what happens? I mean, rather than starting over, somebody brand new, he's been there, he knows the system, so there's that opportunity for improvement. So I like, I like the veteran Geno. I like to see those kind of things where, a guy has toiled, they don't really give him a chance, think he's no good. And then he comes in when he gets a chance, he shows, flips the script on people, turn the tables. So, I think it's a good move. I don't know about that coach. For some reason, Pete Carroll and me I don't know what it is. There's just something about him I'm not real enthused about, but he's had success there. But I think it was a good move keeping Geno.
Pete Carroll hasn't had that much success since he decided to make Russell Wilson throw the ball instead of giving it to
one of the dumbest decisions in sports. I mean, really. Here you are. You got the man that can just walk into the end zone. Just give it to him, and he,
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. Looking back in hindsight, you kind of have to wonder how much of that was Russ also, because every quarterback has a chance to change to play at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I mean, so Russ could have looked over at Pete and said, "Yeah, that's a good deal, but guess what was caring about?
Give it to the money. Give it to the bag, man."
So, and you wonder how both men's careers might have went after that, but that's another condition for another day. What did you think about David Carr going to the Saints? Do you think that the Saints pulled the trigger a little too soon when you look at all the quarterbacks that are going to be out there?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, that happened that quickly like that. And at one time, I really liked Carr, but the last year or so, I don't know. It just seems like there's been a drop off in his performance, a drop off, and then I'm not sure. So, yeah, I was surprised by it.
And I think the thing that surprised me most was you don't know whether Michael Thomas is staying or not. He could be a free agent. What if Michael Thomas decides to go to the Raiders, for instance?
Yeah.
Then who's Carr throwing to? A rookie and another rookie, whoever they decide to draft this year? Because I believe the Ogave was their number 2. So, technically speaking, I mean, Kamara is getting a little older and not very healthy. Ingram has always had his troubles. So, did the Saints really get better? And what does that mean for Jameis Winston now?
Well, does Jameis want to be a backup, or does he think he can start somewhere? I don't know. I still don't know what to think of Jameis.
Well,
Haven't seen enough sustained that he can really go through a whole season and do something. It's always been abbreviated.
Evidently, the Saints didn't know what to do with him either. That's why David Carr is there now. But I don't think that they're going to pay Carr and
no.
So
no.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either. Carr is going to be their man. They've decided that's who they want. So who do the Raiders have then?
Well, I was just getting ready to ask you that. The Raiders say that they want a long-term solution. So that automatically excludes Rodgers.
Yeah.
That automatically excludes Jimmy G. To me, I don't see where Jimmy G is a long-term solution to anyone. Who else do you have out there? Marcus Mariota, Baker Mayfield. I mean, so are you talking about somebody coming out of college? Because I don't see a long-term quarterback sitting out there anywhere.
Well, around here, the name of Kirk Cousins has been thrown into the mix of some type of trades or moves, and the Vikings doing some moving up with their great analytical brainiac people in their front office. So I don't know, because he's going to get big money. I think this last year maybe close to $40 million.
Yeah, he's another one that has one of those Aaron Rodgers contracts. So
they might think of. They're saying maybe 49ers may want him because 49ers are ready to win, and then he might fit right in there because I think that coach and him have a lot in common.
But then, what do you do? Now you were just saying last week that there's also a possibility of the Vikings moving on from Cook. So if they move on from Cook and they move on from Kurt, are you still going to be a contender?
Well, those dominoes have to fall, and there has to be.
And sooner or later, you're going to have to pay Jefferson.
Yeah, very true. But those dominoes fall when things are in place. It's not like things fall and then you scramble to find what you're going to do. These things always are done. If Kirk goes somewhere, there's got to be somebody, because they've never had a backup quarterback in the whole time they've had Kirk here. I mean, They've never had a serviceable anybody that anybody's ever heard of actually play. So I don't know if there's a rookie out there or if there'd be a draft pick, but there has been some talk about maybe Cousins moving, because this is his last year. He wants another contract. He holds up people. He's a hold up man.
He's a stick up man.
He's a hold up man. He wants money. He only wants his bag.
If I had as much success as Kirk Cousins, I'd still be robbing people too.
He wants his bag, and so he wants a longer. He wants to be signed for 3 or 4 more years of this.
Yes.
He wants to
Yes.
Guaranteed. He's going. This is what he's lobbying for. And so they got to decide.
And he's looking at the money that these other young guys are getting, and he's saying, "Guess what, guys? I have one of the best wide receivers in football too."
Yeah.
You know,
and that new tight end that they got from Detroit. Yeah.
So hey, now maybe you might want some people around me that want to stop other people from scoring. Maybe that's what you might want to do, but so the Chiefs had decided that they weren't going to tag offensive tackle Orlando Brown. And this was kind of surprising to me because Orlando Brown, I believe, is a very young man. I believe he's maybe 27 years old. And one of the reasons why he got to the Chiefs was because he wanted to play left tackle. He wanted to prove that he could be an effective pass blocker and take care of the quarterback. Because if you remember, he started out his career as a Raven at right tackle. So now he's a relatively young man. Then you have Frank Clark, who we saw had immense pressure put on the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So what do you think? Are the Chiefs still the team to beat? Or do you see, there's a rumor now that no one has really, it's kind of under wraps that the Chiefs might be seeking Derrick Henry.
Really?
So Derrick Henry as a running back, Travis Kelce as a wide receiver. I mean,
Jerick McKinnon as an off third back,
And Tony is has proven his worth in the Super Bowl, right? So, what's your thoughts? Are we going to?
Well, that sounds like this one of them deals. Like maybe the commissioner will step in and say you can't do that. I mean, that's what David Stern used to do in basketball. They tried to make them trades. He said, "No, you can't do that." I think the Chiefs. Mahomes is the wizard. I mean, Mahomes, he's just the wizard. He gets it done. He's the best in the business, I think, and he does it unconventionally. So people kind of think it's kind of different, but he'll throw it sidearm, underhand, overhand. He'll run it if necessary.
He puts the playground back in football. He makes football.
Yeah, he makes it real. Fun. Yeah.
I know the old school guy, but he just puts, he's like that breath of fresh air, like that Michael Vick that comes in and just does things that you don't believe,
Yeah, Vick, and really it goes back to me the old Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he would run around that thing, and these guys would actually fall out trying to catch him and chase him, and then he finally threw the ball.
Yeah. Who was the other old guy that used to do that too? Played forever. He kicked the football too. He was a kicker and a quarterback.
But the kicker quarterback was George Blanda.
I'm thinking of somebody else. I think he played for the Raiders for a little while. I know he did play for the Vikings, but I'm trying to think of who
he played for the Vikings.
But he was another one of those guys that would scramble around and he finished. George Blanda.
Yeah, that's why I said George Blanda because he kicked.
Yeah, because he was a kicker also. Yeah, but yeah, it was like and we're going way back in the day. Like talking about these. But now Calvin Ridley is back with the Jaguars after his 1-year suspension. They put the franchise tag on the guy that I think did he used to play for you guys? Evan Ingram, was he your old tight end?
Who?
Evan Ingram.
No, no.
I'm trying to think who he used to play for. But anyway, uh, do you think that after looking at the Jaguars last year and what they accomplished uh, with Ridley back, do you think that that makes them a contender? Maybe not a winner, but at least back in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they had a great season. They pulled it second half of the season. They were real good. Quarterback looks like he's coming on. Yeah, I think that's a great addition for them. I'm not sure why he even got suspended. What was he doing? He bet on a game or something?
Yeah, he was betting on he was betting on sports games. Uh, he was the Pete Rose of professional football.
Yeah, well, they should forget about that because they're getting ready to let everybody bet everywhere. I mean, betting, this it's just kind of like what a wink, wink thing. They're going to punish some people for doing what everybody's doing. I mean,
You can open up your computer and go on at least 6 different sports books.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
you can bet.
right now I have DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo Sports. So I mean,
Yeah, I do the FanDuel fantasy thing. We can't really do the betting thing here, but we can just do the fantasy.
okay, okay. What do you think about the Ravens, the Ratbirds, and the Lamar situation? I mean, uh, I'm not saying that what's he making? $32.41 million a year. I mean, this is not poverty level money, but the $100 million, and I'm looking at this two ways. First of all, a black man being able to negotiate a contract this size. Well, yeah, his mother, technically, but I think that at some time this deal is going to come back to bite both parties. I think it's going to come back to bite them both in the ass. Number one, I don't think that at this particular price, the Ratbirds are going to be able to get what they want, which is 2 first-round draft picks. Now, that's not saying that Lamar is not worth 2 first-round draft picks, but when you look back at his history, there's another gentleman that hasn't been able to stay healthy. And number two, if you hold out for, it's like counting another man's money. Just because Cleveland gave so-and-so does not mean that another team is going to give you that same type of contract, because that is a bad contract. These teams are in the money-making business. The NFL is in the money-making business. They're not going to keep letting teams make bad deals, which forces them to make other bad deals with other bad players. I think we see this when you look at the Giants contract with Daniel Jones. So what is your thoughts on this current situation between the Ratbirds and Lamar Jackson?
Well, the problem with Lamar is he wants Watson money. He wants what Watson. That's the starting point. Watson is guaranteed. He wants that big bag like that guaranteed. And they're saying, no, we saw what happened with Watson. We saw we're not doing no more contracts like that. That's just not going to happen. We're not doing no more. They're not doing no more like that.
If you look at it right now, with Cleveland being over the salary cap, they're already thinking that they have to restructure Deshaun's contract.
But it's guaranteed. So he probably sit out and get paid.
Well, the thing, it doesn't matter whether you pay him in bonus money now or you pay him in bonus money later. But right now, they're about, even with the linebacker that they just cut this week, they're still about, I think they were 23 million over the salary cap or whatever, which means that, it's either they're going to pay Deshaun in bonus money, or they're going to end up possibly cutting either what's their wide receiver. They're either going to have to cut their wide receiver or Myles Garrett. I mean, somebody, somehow they have to make this work too. So, Cleveland's already worried about that contract. So,
but that's why Lamar is not going to get that money. He's not going to get money like that because these teams are just not going to do that anymore. And Baltimore seems like a great place for him to be. They want him there. I don't know why these guys get disgruntled with a place. That's the same thing with Deshaun in Houston. I mean, they were willing to build around him there, but no, he don't want to be there. Why? What's wrong? It's just a city. You get paid just like anywhere else.
Yeah, hey,
I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there. It's like shit.
As long as the check clears the bank, then it shouldn't.
Yeah, but, that's what I don't get about these guys. I mean, hell, he's on a team and they don't want to be there, so he's got to go and sits out and all this stupid stuff. But it's all attended to this whole rap culture that we're in now. I detest that shit. I can't stand it. It gets on my last nerve. Makes me want to vomit every time I hear that and stuff.
I gotta find some positive rap groups in your area. This is I got.
There's no such thing. That's an oxymoron. There's no such thing.
See, now you want people to start pulling out a dictionary. People don't know what that means anymore. That's something from our day and age.
Well, then they'll learn something then,
But let's talk about some U-Haul candidates. We talked about the AFC last week. Tell me whether you think these guys are going to be with this team or with another team next year. And I'm going to start out with the Calf Boys. We can't call them Cowboys anymore because they just, with the quarterback they got one and done. But cornerback Kelvin Joseph, do you think he's going to be a Cowboy next year or not?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we know that the Giants have already cut Kenny Golladay. So where do you think would be a good place for him to end up?
Boy.
I'm thinking Atlanta.
Why Atlanta?
Well, number one, you have a lot of guys that are aging out of Atlanta, so you want to bring some new, you want to bring some new blood in. You've got the young kid there, Ritter. He's going to need a veteran presence, and you've already gotten rid of Mariota. I'm thinking you can get Kenny on the cheap, and he'll be a very soothing character in your locker room. I mean, I'm not saying that he couldn't work in some other places, but that was just one of the first places that came to my mind.
Okay.
I mean, I don't see him in a Viking uniform, so I don't really see him. And now he could end up with Chicago, but I don't see whether that's being an upgrade to their current wide receiver program. It would just be another veteran, and it would be another veteran, but it wouldn't be an improvement.
And then you said Galladay. Well, you already talked about that, huh?
Yeah. Andre Dillard, offensive lineman for the Eagles. He's one of those 13 people that I'm talking about that could possibly end up being a free agent for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, God, they had such a great year, and his position is really coveted on that offensive line. For the quarterback, I don't see why he wouldn't be staying there.
Okay. Taylor Henneke, quarterback for the Commanders.
Possibly as a backup, I guess. I mean, he has shown that he does have some play in him. So I could see him being a backup, but I mean, I wouldn't think they're going to go into the year with him starting.
Would this be a landing spot possibly for the guy we were talking about earlier from New Orleans?
You mean Jameis?
Yes.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. That wouldn't be bad. We got the enemy there. That actually could be kind of fun to see.
Okay. The Bears guard Cody Whitehair.
Well, I don't know anything about the Bears.
Well, not the Lions. Well, let's see. What about the Packers? Darnell Savage.
Yeah, I think he's going to be there. I think he started through most of the season, so yeah, I would think so.
Marcus Mariota from the quarterback from the Falcons. We know they've cut him already.
Yeah. Well, he'll find a backup somewhere. I don't know where. And then, did you say Irv Smith was on your list too?
Yeah, he's the next guy I was talking about, Irv Smith Jr.
I think he's done with the Vikings. I mean, he's been hurt so much. Every year he's been hurt. And now that they got this guy from Detroit, what was his name? Hawkins something?
Yeah. Fantasy proven tight end as well as a very good, I would say, at least within the top five tight ends in the NFL.
Yeah. So I can't see him. They really wanted Irv to do it, but he just has not been able to stay healthy.
What do you think about the Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas?
Well, you'd think that they'd want him to stay now with the quarterback they have.
See, that's another thing. I don't know if Carr makes that wide receiving core any better.
Yeah.
Like I said, you got Olave, the rookie. He was a rookie last year. He'll be coming into his second year. You got Michael Thomas, a veteran who's never been able to stay healthy a complete season. So Kamara, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing last year. When you think of Michael Thomas or Tyreek Hill, you're talking about Waller, as opposed to who is the tight end for the Saints? Is it Tyson Hill? Is he the tight end or the quarterback? I mean, so I mean, like I said, I'm not so sure about how this Saints thing is going to work out, even though Tom Brady is no longer, a buck. But that to me, that might be a wide open division for Trevor Lawrence, as I said. Greg Dorset, he's a wide receiver for, and I'm not sure. What do you think is going to be? Where do you see the Cardinals being next year? I mean, I don't see Kyler Murray making that big of a step forward. As a matter of fact, I don't see the Cardinals as a viable playoff contender.
No, I see the Cardinals as having buyer's remorse. I think that with that little guy, I don't know what it is. He just doesn't. I think he's too small. I mean, I just think the guy is too little to play. I don't know what. I mean, he just looks so tiny out there, and he just hasn't really shown that he's worth that big money that he's getting. And how that works, I don't think he's got a guaranteed contract. So, I mean, I could see this being a make or break year for him, kind of. I mean, he's going to have to really show that he's worth what they're paying him and that he can stay on the field.
What about Baker Mayfield? Is he going to be a Ram next year?
He'll be a backup somewhere. I don't know where, but he'll be a backup.
But you don't think he'll be with the Rams?
Well, I guess it's possible. I guess it's
it's not like the Rams. I mean, have raised a lot of hell since they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What about Jimmy G? It's evident that he's not going to be a 49er, but
yeah, God, he could go somewhere and start. I don't see why everybody's so down on him. I mean, he is what he is. I mean, he's not spectacular. He's kind of like a Rudy Gobert. They just do what they do. They're not gonna all of a sudden do things they don't do. And so, but he seems to be within the offense that he's playing. He seems to not throw the ball away. He seems to be very serviceable. I would think he should be able to get a job somewhere to start.
Do you think? Now, and I'm going back in history here, because remember there was a time when Bill Belichick wanted to trade Tom Brady and keep Jimmy G. Yeah. If it were not for the interference of one Mr. Kraft. Do you possibly see a reunion between Jimmy G and Bill Belichick, considering the performance of Mac Wilson last year?
Oh, I could definitely see it, because I think that Belichick's plan was nobody's planning for your quarterback to play till they're damn near 50. Nobody's planning on that. So he had Jimmy G ready to take over. That was his plan.
Yes, it was. Yes,
but then the other guy just kept. The other guy wouldn't leave. So
and the guy that says he's not said that this guy that's winning these Super Bowls ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, he's not going to. So I mean, I've got to get my career going. I don't want to just sit on the bench with the notebook all day long. I want to play. So, yeah, I could definitely see that, because I think that was the original plan. And then I saw some rumblings today about Brady. He made some statement. Well, maybe he's not done yet. Then maybe he's. I don't. So
Brady's statement the other day, because speculation had Brady going to the 49ers. And Brady said that his most important mission now is to help his daughter raise her little kitten. Now, of course, I still think this is part of the fallout. That Brady still wants his family back, and that maybe he took his obsession with football a step too far. But as they say, hindsight, because now it's not a matter of football is my main content. Tom's getting a little old, and maybe he has a little buyer's remorse from football when it cost him as much as it's costing, and especially considering the last 2 years of his career. So just a thought. I was looking at another young man, the Seahawks tight end. Defensive end, L.J. Collier. And here was another guy that they were expecting a lot of good things out of him, but that's been injury prone. What do you think about the? Especially after the way that they've treated Gino, and the way that they're looking forward to the next season. They still have two of the most dangerous wide receivers in pro football. But do you think that they'll let Collier go for someone younger or somebody less injury prone?
I don't really know. I don't know that much about the Hawks and their defense. I didn't really pay that much attention to them.
Might be a team you might be facing next year in playoffs.
Yeah.
Could
be. I'm just curious to hear what's going to happen with Kirk. Is he gonna be here? Are they gonna sign him? I don't think he's just gonna play under a 1-year deal. I think he's gonna kind of demand more money. That's kind of what he does.
Well, that is his MO.
Yeah, that's what he does.
But then again, Kurt is also a very shrewd businessman, and Kurt would rather have a year of some money than a year of no money. So,
yeah, but that may force them to move him somewhere where they're going to give him more money.
Well, does Kurt have a what do they call that? No trade clause?
I don't know if I know he has guaranteed money, but I don't know if he has a no trade.
Might be something to consider whether or not he does have a no trade. A little talk about the combine. Billy went to the combine last week. I was hoping he would be able to get back in time to give us a little report on some of the things that he's seen. But the combine has been in Indianapolis since 1987, and its current contract is to be up in 2024. The union says they want to get rid of the combine because the combine is more or less a flesh show. back in, if we were talking about back in the day, it would be, kind of like where you would line up young men and they would be examined and for lack of a better term, sold into servitude for these various pro teams because there is no process by where the players or the participants in these events, such as the combine, there's they're basically exhibitions put on by owners where players sell their wares to the highest bidder. Do you think that we will see a different type of combine, or do you think that the combine that we know it is in any jeopardy?
I would think they want to have, they have different combines, pro days at the different colleges. I mean, they got to see how fast these guys are. They want to know your speed. And it's interesting, even though there's a running back here for Minnesota set all the records, Mo Ibrahim.
Yes.
Great running back, but he's like 5'8", and he's 200 pounds. So I think at the combine he was supposed to go, but he didn't. He wouldn't go. He didn't want to do the sprinting, and so he's going to come to. I guess they're going to have some kind of pro day here at the U of M, University of Minnesota. So that I don't think that's going to go away because it's going to tell these guys what. And Ibrahim set all these records, but they say he's not even one of the top backs that are being looked at. And I think he's because his size. I think he's a smaller back.
But we've had small running backs before that have been successful.
But then by not wanting to do the speed test, what does that say? I don't know if that's.
But Mr. Scott, when has your time in the 40 or how high you jump equated to how good of a football player that you could look at?
Agreed. But see, these people are analytics. They look at these things. There are people that just go strictly by what the clock says, by what you have to be an astute coach to say you got to see what's inside here. What this guy can bring? This guy got some dog in him. We got to bring him in. And that's where your real coaching comes in.
I think most of your dogs are gone from the NFL. I think we might.
I know it's like touch. They want the bag. They're trying to get the bag.
It might be more like the Puppy Bowl now, Mrs.
Yeah, they want to get their bag and get out unscathed.
Hey, it's good that we can sit around and talk a little sports tonight. I'm glad we had some time together. Like I said, I was hoping Bill would come back.
Yeah,
and Don is going to be gone for the next couple of weeks. But what's your final thoughts? Baseball season's coming up. What do we got to look forward to?
Baseball season. These Twins. I tell you, why in the world would you trade the American League batting championship for a nondescript pitcher? I mean, this guy, Luis Arraez, won the batting championship. Why would you trade him? I'm interested to see with this shift stuff. They've said then they got some kind of pitch counts, and they're doing everything they can to ruin the game. Everything they can come up with to just make it pitch counts is too long. It's too long because you keep changing pitchers every time you turn around. That's why it's too long. I never thought a game was. I used to go to double headers. I never thought it was too long. I mean, we could sit through those games, no problem. So
I remember when I first moved out here to San Diego, and the Padres weren't quite as good as they are now. But you could go to
was Dave Winfield playing when you were out there?
No.
Okay.
But no, this was just in 2003 to 2000.
Okay.
They were just building Petco Park, the whole 9 yards, and you could get tickets to the new stadium, and they had a place out in center field where the kids would play, and you could come in, and it was a family type atmosphere, and you still see the family setting, but you don't see like you said, a family night of baseball where the family is, as soon as everyone got home from work, you got in the car, you went out and you went to the baseball game, and maybe you had, some popcorn and some peanuts, a couple of hot dogs, Nowadays, I mean, a hot dog is $10, $12,
and it's cold.
Yeah. What he said, and it's cold. He said, you got a cold beer and a cold hot dog.
Well, yeah, we used to get double headers. This gas station, Super America or something, would give it. They call it the Knot Hole Day, and my dad would take me and my brother and drop us off at the stadium, and you got in for free. But you could and he gave us enough money to get a hot dog and a pop. And he says, don't get your hot dog and a pop till the first game's over. Wait till the first game's over, then go get your hot dog and pop. And we sat out there all day, watching baseball games.
Yeah. A whole family could go to the game for $25, maybe, and that was if you were paying, having a premier team there, but you do miss those. Nowadays it costs you $25 just to park. So
they and the rules of the thing, extra innings, somebody's on second base, and all kinds of little stuff that's annoying to me. It really is.
Aren't they experimenting a rule this year where the pitcher has to have the ball up to the plate within a certain?
Yeah. I watched an exhibition game the other day, and it didn't come up in time. They made it a ball.
Okay.
Ball one.
Well, I guess we're going to have flag football pretty soon, so why not flag baseball? But hey, you have a good night, and see if we can get some of those positive guests on the show, Mr. Scott. I'm looking forward to talking to some of them, especially from around your area. Like I said, I've had a couple sports boxing shows. Mr. Fort, whose wife, I believe, had ran for council. You also had Caleb Truax that's been in Minnesota all his life, from his whole Olympic background, the whole 9 yards. There are some very positive stories coming out of Minneapolis. The thing of it is for me, it's like pulling teeth to get to find them for you people, So don't accuse me of being negative, because I'm the one. I'm looking for all the positive that I can find, because, hey, like I said, I never knew how many Black and indigenous people were actually in the state of Minnesota.
Well, Minneapolis was one of the most. There were more Native Americans here in Minneapolis of any major city in the country for years. And the grade school I went to they tore my grade school down, and they built the American Indian Center of Minnesota on the same site of that school, because that's where I went to school and lived in the neighborhood. And I mean, beautiful women, Oh my God.
Yeah, I got in trouble in South Dakota. I know
Beautiful.
it's yeah.
That's beautiful. And the little powwows we used to go to, I mean, they had these, they called them Indian tacos or whatever. Food was tremendous. It was just very ethnic. We didn't think anything of it. But now we got these tamales, and it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different ball game.
Well, hey, you have a great night. I look forward. As I said, I would like to have the gentleman from St. Paul. There's some young ladies that are involved also within the community that I'd like to get back on and just you know put forth some. I'd like to do a follow up on some of those kids that were featured. In that Showtime. What happened to some of those kids? The ones that were seniors, because that particular program, I believe, aired in 2021.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So what happened to some of those kids? In that particular time, we already had heard about one or two of them that had got caught up in the gang violence previous to that. So I would like to do a follow up to see like what's happened at North High since that special has aired.
You know what? I'm gonna have to try to have all three of them aired already.
Yes. Like I said, it's from 2021. So all three.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to go and read up and see those things. I'll probably know some of the people or know some of their people, and I can let you know once I get a chance to really look at all of it.
Yeah, if it's on YouTube, you can find them on YouTube.
Okay.
You might have to search around a little bit, but boys from the North, and it's Showtime, 2021.
Yeah, because I know Adams and I know his father,
Yeah.
and the coach Adams, he now is security for the Minnesota Twins.
Okay.
He works security. He's their head security person for the baseball team.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he's still I don't know if he's still coaching or not. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, like I said, it would be interesting to find out, what's happened to some of those kids as well as those coaches in the 2 years since that has happened.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, it would also we see, and you tell us constantly about, what has happened with the George Floyd thing, and if it was like that 2 years ago, and that situation hasn't gotten any better, how do we expect to bring something positive to our kids? But that's another program for another day.
Oh yeah, the education, the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of good topics to really hit. So
yeah. All right. Well, you have a great night, Mr. Scott. I look forward.
Yeah, you too. And the Timberwolves are going to make the playoffs. So I just thought I'd throw it out there that you know that. And I'm going to be in Atlanta. I'm planning to be in Atlanta Monday to see the Timberwolves. Me and my cousin, he's an old Morehouse guy. He just keeps hollering about the Hawks. So I'm going to surprise him and show up. He'll be shocked to see me. He might just run out the back door when he sees me.
All right, Mr. Scott.
Okay.
You have a good day. I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
All right. Oh, man. Always good to have a couple hours with Mr. Scott there. We get on each other's case, but hey, it's all about love. Hopefully, we'll be able to get Bill on the show next week, talk a little bit about his combine experiences. And thank you so much for listening to us tonight. We appreciate it. Have a great night.